Hi Felters and welcome, my name is Philippa and today we're doing a video on basic shapes. So this is a slither or slither, which is a carded wool, and it's a rope-like form, and the one I just showed you was a bat. So making a ball, it's a lot easier just to take a little slither or slither, however you like to say it. Some people like to do a little knot in the middle, which is a fantastic way of doing it, and then you roll the edges up around and then you start felting. However, it's not how I like to do it, but I do like to show you different methods. So I take a little end bit and I just tuck it in and under. The tighter you roll something, the easier it is to felt. And I'm sort of turning it over and in on itself on the corners. It almost ends up a little bit triangular shaped. And then you just sort of wrap it in and fold in the edges. And don't worry that it's not really circular. Now this needle I'm using is a 30-40 triangular, that one is the red one, and I will talk about Heidi Feathers in a minute, who are the sponsor of today's videos. So this is a 40 triangular needle, and I'm literally just the last sort of end bit, I'm just felting across it, and that secures it and keeps it tight. And then next I'm going to felt the corner bits that are sort of sticking out, because you don't want it to sort of all fall out. So go round and just felt the corner bits. And then we're just going to roll and turn, roll and turn. Now, ball shapes are a fantastic, easy first shape to practice with. If you are absolutely brand new, I have a video on the first time you do some felting, so do go and have a look at that one. And it's a real time and we go all the way through it. In this one, I'm just going to speed up a few bits so you don't have to sit through everything. But you can see I'm starting to felt that corner bit that was popping out, but the stab marks that I'm doing are quite wide and quite far apart, and then I'm going to keep rolling and turning just to make sure I get all sides. So you see how it's secured, it's nearly circular. You can give it a little squish as well, but it's not in any way felted or firm. It would be very easy to unravel that. So now I'm going to start felting slightly closer together. Now felting is a gentle tapping motion. I use the word stab, but it's not, you don't have to stab very hard at all. It's a gentle tapping motion, and the direction in which you push the needle is the direction in which the wool is going to compress inwards. And when you start with something, even if you roll it up quite tightly, it's normally going to go about 1/4 to 1/3 smaller. So here I am, you can see it up close. That area to the right, I have felted quite a bit. That I haven't felted at all, really. You will be able to see the needle marks when you felt something. And then the more you felt it, especially with a finer needle, the more the marks will sort of disappear. So I'm giving it a little roll. You can see it's still very squidgy. That's a little bit firmer on that side. Very squidgy there. So you can definitely see the difference. So we're going to spend a bit more time working our way all the way over it. And I do speed this up for you. It took me about 4 minutes, I think, to go all the way around this ball and achieve a fairly okay finish that I would be happy with. So there we are. So I've got that last little bit just to do there. So you can see the needle marks, but you could go over it with a finer needle, or you just give it a little rough and a little roll and the needle marks will disappear. And the firmness is going to be up to you. I like my felts to be fairly firm, but not tennis ball hard. That's just to show you how far in the needle is going each time you push it into the wool. It goes in a lot further than you think. So there we go, I've gone all the way over it. The last roll just helps, especially if you put some water on your hands, just helps get rid of any little fuzziness. And there we go, all done. So you can make them yourself, but you can also, stay in the middle, buy them. So this leads us nicely onto the sponsor of our video. And just to show you there's alternatives out there. It's good practice for you to make them, but you can purchase them as well. That's my one in the middle. It's like I made it perfectly. So Heidi Feathers is a family-run dedicated needle felting shop online in the UK, but they do deliver worldwide. They have the biggest selection of needle felting needles in the UK. I have worked with them a lot and I use them a lot, so I thoroughly recommend them, and I'm really happy that they're sponsoring this video. So they do kits, needles, single colour wools, packs of wools, glass eyes, carders, all the accessories you need. They do wire, they do mats, pre-felt wool, they do wet felting tools, they do specialist fibres, dyes. They also do wholesale, and I order some products from there for my kits. And these are the wool felt balls, just to show you. You can get them in 1 centimetre and 2 centimetre. The needles in particular, everybody knows Heidi Feathers for needles. There's a complete needle felting guide, which is a great read, and they do mixed packs, and my favourite is the ultimate mix. I wish I'd bought this when I first started. This is just a range of some of their packs of wools, but you can buy wool individually as well. And this is my most favourite needle felting kit, and I've got a full video on this. So Heidi Feathers, thank you for sponsoring this video. Just to show you, this is what you could do. You can make bunting out of the balls, you can make earrings, necklaces, the small ones you can make bracelets, so they are quite fun to play around with. Right, let's get a new cup of tea. Next up, this is just a little piece of linen I'm going to use on my mat. So normally I would go onto the dark side of my mat. I do make these mats, but we're going to do a colour which is a little bit stronger so you can see it. So I don't want it going onto the light colour of my mat. So I'm just putting the linen down and it protects the mat. So we're going to make a heart, and I think the easiest way of making a heart is with a cookie cutter, which you can get anywhere. And you take the wool, take a clump of it all together and force it into the cookie cutter. You probably feel like you've got too much, and we'll go in close in a minute, and you can literally see I have jammed the cookie cutter. So I started out with my, as I looked it up, 38 triangular needle, which is the red one at Heidi Feathers. They're all colour coded, and she sends them with a postcard, so you can't forget which one is which. It's so good. So I'm going to go to my clover pen, which has got 2 40s in it, and I am being very, very careful of the edge of the cookie cutter. Sometimes if you're a little bit heavy-handed, you can hit the edge of the cookie cutter and it could break your needle. So if you are a beginner, start with a nice big needle, maybe a 36, just to see how you go. But you can see how the clover pen, it's got 2 needles. It comes normally with 3 needles in it, and make sure you go for the actual branded clover pen, and that you don't get, some of them, the copies are okay, but really the actual clover pen one is better, which is the pink one. And you can put 3 in, but I like just 2. So I've felted it in there on one side, and I'm going to do a little bit more, but you can see the other side looks all nice and soft and fluffy because we haven't done it yet. So I'm going to go, I just secured it all in with the clover pen, so I'm going to go back to the 38 triangular, and I'm going to start to work all the way around the edges and in through the middle. So you have to make sure you really get the wool into the edges. There's me just checking the other side. And it's not sticking to the mat at all with that linen there. It really sort of helps protect your mat. But if I was doing it in a white colour, I would have it directly on the mat. It wouldn't bother me. So you can see there it's all nice and clean. Otherwise you would have seen the pink coming out. And so you start to work your way all the way through and all the way over it. And again, it probably took me, to work all the way over one side is only 2 or 3 minutes. It doesn't take that long. And then once you're happy with that side, you're going to go over the other side. Now the other side is probably going to end up as the more presentable side once you've finished and it's all ready. But I really think cookie cutters are a fantastic way to start you off and to get your shapes correct, and you can make a nice thick chunky heart with this, which you'll see in a minute. So I've done both sides and I'm happy. It's going to stay in shape when I pop it out. If it still feels a bit loose when you pop it out, pop it back in and do a bit more. So we now have to go all the way around the edges because the edges are still not felted that well. So at the point of the heart there, just felt right down into it, and that will accentuate and keep that pointy bit. And then we're going to work all the way around the edges and just round them off a bit so it doesn't look like it came out of a cookie cutter. This is my other favourite needle, the 40 spiral from Heidi Feathers, which is a light blue colour, and I use this an awful lot. However, the 38 triangular, you can do a lot of things with it. Don't feel you have to have the specialist needles. I do have a video going through specialist needles as well, but I do find the 40 spiral can be a favourite for a lot of people. So here I am just sort of working all the way around the edges lightly. Don't felt too heavy at this point because you'll squash it right down, and you want to keep that heart shape. So if you lightly work your way all the way around, and you'll see in a minute that when I've done one side, what a difference it makes. I'm just holding it there between my fingers. Do be very careful. You can wear finger guards if you are brand new to felting, but I feel sometimes you can't feel the wool very well. So you might wear them for a bit and then try and go it without them. There we go. So I've done one side on the right, and you can see the difference. It's made it so much neater, much, much better. So definitely do that and then go over the other side. And the very point at the bottom, leave that till the very last, because you don't want to lose the tip. You don't want to felt it upwards and inwards too much. So go right down and then just leave the last sort of couple of mil and then do it. So there we are. That is the heart all done. And, you know, heart is a fantastic shape to play around with in the beginning. And I'm just squishing it a bit flatter there so you can still play around with it again. But yeah, a really good shape to practice. So there we go. There we go. That's the ball and the heart. So these are other ones you can do. We're going to do the star in a minute because it's very tricky to get the edges of the star correct. So let's do the star together. And I'm using a mixed bat of colours. So it's got carded wool and some tops in it. If you're not sure about wool, I have a video on wools as well, explaining it all. So I'm going for the 36 here. I think it's 36. It might be a 32. I shall double check. I think it's a 36. And I have taken a lot of wool and I have crammed it into the star, and it's like way too much. You sort of think this is not going to work. But basically, because there's 6 points on this star, you're very likely to catch the edge. So that's why I'm starting out with a nice big thick needle, and it felt a little bit thin at the edge there. So I added a tiny bit more. You can feel quite a lot with your fingers. Now I am dragging the wool into the edges, into the tips, because you won't get the points otherwise unless you do. If you just casually sort of felt it all through the middle and don't drag it out to the points will be very weak and very small. So I do drag it out a little bit. Now, if you do any dragging with wool with your needle, you can be liable to break the needle if it's a fine needle, such as a 38 and a 40. You go very gently. So work your way around all the tips, and I've done one half there on the back, so I'm now going to go through and do the other half, and I've moved on to the 38 because I'm happy with the corners. So I've done all of one side. It's not neat yet. Now I'm going to do the other side. This wool has a sparkle in it, has a glittery colour. Glittery colour in wools are normally acrylic and they will not felt, so the other wools will hold them in. So I will have some sticking out, so I just cut those off at the end. But anything that's really sparkly or glittery is artificial or acrylic, so it's not going to have any barbs on it and it won't felt together. But the other wools do sort of hold it in, so you can use it still. But just so you know, that's why the glittery bits are sticking out. So I've turned it over and I'm going all the way over the other side. And again, a couple of minutes, definitely takes a while. So I've gone through both sides, really happy with it, popped it out, and you can see the points aren't brilliant. So I'm going to have to work my way all the way around and do all the in-between bits, and very carefully, you can really see the difference here as I push it in. That's still quite soft, so very carefully do the tips. So do the in-between bits, and then I'd probably go back over and then slightly just felt the tips a little bit. And this, I'm not sure how you'd produce a star otherwise. You could try and do it from 2 triangles and place them on top of each other. But if you're looking to create a star shape, I think a cookie cutter is definitely the best way to do it. So there we go, that's a star. So you can make lots of other shapes. You could even put a bit of flat felt. Now this is, if you hear people talk about 100% wool felt, that's 100% wool felt. This is pre-felt. Pre-felt is a lot stretchier. A lot of people use it in the back of their pictures. You might use it as a base for if you were creating a brooch or something, but see the stretchiness? And then this is 100% wool felt. So pre-felt is stretchy, wool felt is like a lot thicker, and you use wool felt as well for pictures. So now we're going to create an egg shape. So I've taken a large bit off a bat. So a bat is a complete flat piece. That's how it comes off the carding machine actually. That's why it's called a bat. So they take it off in a big flat bit, and then they would then break that up into the rope-like sliders after that. So the bats come first. And I've just rolled it up, and I tucked the end in a little bit as I rolled it, just to make that end a bit thicker. So we're trying to create an egg or an oval shape. And you can see the clover pen working really well for me, and it really sort of helps speed up the process. I also have another multi-needle tool holder here, which I'll show you in a bit. But I'm just doing the base at the moment, just felting that together because I want it to hold. And then it's all very soft at the top, but I don't want it to be too pointy because it's going to be an egg. So I've just folded the tops in there, not too much. And then I go to the outside of it and felt that down a bit. You start to you can angle almost at 45 degrees when you're doing the top of it, not the very top, when you're sort of doing the side top. You can see it's very squishy. I want it to be a little bit shorter. And then we're also going to build up the base a bit more because I don't think that's quite wide enough. So I'm very loosely felting as I go round to bring it together to get the shape I want. There I had a little bit of a join mark that I didn't like. So I was just stretching the wool a little bit so it's all fuzzy, and then felting that back down to try and cover the join mark. If it didn't work, and it doesn't on one of the bits later on, you just take a small section of the wool, nice and thin, and you lay that over the top and felt that in. So we're roughly there. That's going to be the base. It's very squidgy. So the base I wanted to be a bit wider, to be a bit more egg shaped, so I'm just going to add this on. And because this wool is carded, you really can add things quite easily, and it covers up the join marks. When you're working with tops, which is like hair-like structure almost, when you look at it, it's all in a row. It's a lot harder. I would card tops myself a bit before I use them, but they take a lot longer and it's harder to cover the join marks. So this is my multi-needle tool holder. It's got 440 spirals and it works really well. So multi-needle tool holders, you need to be using a finer needle in order for them to work. If I had put 36 triangulars in this, it wouldn't penetrate the wool as much as it is. When I've got the 40 spirals, it works really well. It penetrates the wool. It's nice and easy to use, and there's not much resistance. But you do have to be very careful of your fingers. You can put 8 in this one, but I don't like that. I only use the 4. I don't ever have needed any more than the 4. If you were doing a flat piece, there is a big punch needle tool which has got about 8 in it, and that works better for flat pieces. So I made it a bit chunkier at the bottom, and now I've roughly gone over it. Now I'm going to go over it in a little bit more detail with the clover pen, just bringing it together. And this actually isn't going to be the final needle that I will use. See that join mark there? I can't keep felting it, it's not going to disappear. So take a thin sort of flattish piece, make sure the edges are all fuzzy, don't do any fold overs or anything, and just lay it on and then start felting it in. Excuse me. I'm going to be talking to you for a long time, so I do apologise. So I'm just going all the way over with the clover pen. It's not the end layer, but it definitely brings it all together quite well, and it keeps the shape. And when I'm working on the top bit and I want that point a little bit more, I work all around the sort of top inch, felting in. So there we are, we're getting a bit more egg shape. That edge bit down the bottom needs to be a bit more angled, and actually towards the end I do add a little bit on the bottom because I felt it went a bit too flat. So here we are on the final layer. So now I've moved to the 40 spiral, and you can see the difference in the felting. It's a lot firmer, and it really brings your project together, and you suddenly realize your project is felted all of a sudden. If you're a beginner, getting to that magic moment where you think, oh my God, yes, that's what they mean, it's felted. And so it's working the needle closely together, sort of little tiny stab marks, and gradually working your way round. And I tell you, this did take 25 to 30 minutes to do. And that's why needle felting takes time. It just takes a long time to felt things. And so there we go. I've gone all the way around it. I'm just going to add a bit more on the bottom, and you'll see it makes a big difference, and it looks a lot better. So just the clover pen just to bring it together, pop it on. If there's any join marks, again, I will add another thin layer. And what I tend to do is I add a bit, loosely attach it, and then look at it and go, does that look better? Yes, that definitely looks better. And so I keep going. And then I know it's okay. If it doesn't look better and it doesn't improve your felt, then you would pull it off. Felting is extremely forgiving. It's fantastic. It's a lot easier. So there we go. I've gone all the way around and it's worked much better. So that was the egg shape. Next, I'm just going to briefly show you legs. Now, I do lots of videos on sheep and cows. So this is a leg where we're going to have nothing on the inside. So I've got this thin piece of wire that we're going to leave in there for a bit, felt around it, and then we're going to pull it out. So if you wanted to practice doing an arm or a leg with nothing inside it, this is how I would wrap it around a piece of wire so you get that shape a lot easier. It's really tricky to make something long and thin without something inside it to wrap it around. So I take a 36 needle, something nice and thick, because you might hit the wire, and then we just start to felt it so it holds its shape. Now the end of it I'm just tucking in and pushing upwards, and then I just work my way along it, and I'm rolling and rolling and felting as I go. So rolling and felting, and you just get it to the point where it's holding it all together. So here we are, you can see it in a little bit more detail. So the end of the wire is sticking out, the top end of the leg is how I would have it. And the bottom end, you've rolled the wool just past it, and then you start to felt it upwards. And I had a little bit of a thin bit at the top of the leg, so I just added a bit more wool. And when you're doing legs, you really don't need much wool. It's better to have less and then add a bit more. It's practically impossible to take it away. If you've made it too long, that's fine. You can cut the end off and then cover the end with a thin patch of wool. So I'm just stopping it from sliding up too far there by doing the felt, so the needle going backwards and down. And then I work my way all along it again, 4 or 5 minutes, just working your way all the way around, so that when you pull the wire out, the leg's not going to fall apart. And once you've pulled the wire out, then we're going to do a bit more felting to sort of bring it all together, cover up that hole in the middle as well, which you won't see. So it just slides out and you have a leg, and it's fairly firm, but you need to go over it with a fine needle now because there's no wire, and firm it all up, and then it will be perfect. Lots of people don't use wire armature in their felts. Personally, I use wire armature. I've got lots of videos on wire armature and how to do it and troubleshooting and things like that. Go and look under my technical playlist. Give it a little roll. That always works. And there you go. You've got a leg. And fluffy end at the top so you can attach it. So next up, just to show you, if you did want to use a simple pipe cleaner, I would double it up and then you start at the top. The pipe cleaner, because it's fuzzy, helps stop the wool from slipping. It's definitely really easy beginner way to do a leg. So roll it all the way down, keeping it nice and flat, and I'm just spreading the wool out because I didn't want a chunky bit at the end, and then I'm rolling as I go, and you're going to leave the pipe cleaner in, and that just gives it a bit of firmness and a bit of stability. And I am going straight for the 38 triangular because if you hold your needle quite lightly, you will be absolutely fine, and it will sort of gently tap off the pipe cleaner. So that is the leg, and then I would have worked it for another 5 minutes. It does take a while doing legs. They are a bit annoying. So next up, we're going to do a cone shape. And we're going to start by having the inside of it with a pipe cleaner, so you've got something to wrap around. And again, I just think I find it a lot easier. I'm just putting that linen down so you can actually see it, because I'm using white wool on a white mat. And wool is a natural fibre, so it will contain things that you don't want it to have. They can't clean everything out because the sheep they're outside, they'll have grasses, they'll have straw in it, you know, you can't get everything out. So if it's going to be showing, I definitely pull things out, and sometimes if it's quite a thick piece of grass, I'll pull it out because I don't want my needle hitting it. So we're just wrapping the pipe cleaner here, not worrying too much about the shape. And I think I used a bit of a slither, it was, so it was nice and easy. It's just wrap it all the way down and then decide which end is going to be excuse me, the flat base, and start felting at sort of right angles to it, or down upon it, and that's going to be the flat base end. And then that means that the top end is going to be the thinner end, and so you're going to want to have a lot less wool at the top end. So here I am just working it round, and the clover pen again is doing its job. It's working really well. So I do recommend, if you are into your felting, to get some sort of multi-needle tools. It's not essential, but they really help me. So now I have decided that's the flat end, the big end at the bottom, and it's going to be flat. So I'm adding more wool down there, and then I gradually roll it up, but not to the top. I want to stop short of the top. I really don't want to be adding too much wool to the top. And we're going to accentuate that flat end again by felting up and into it, and that gives you that nice flat bottom. If you do that now and then do the sides, because sometimes the sides, if you go straight for the sides, you can sort of, the bottom will sort of roll off and it won't be big enough. So I would always start by doing the bottom and then start working down the sides. And you can see there's literally barely any wool attached to the top. And what I'm doing is I'm using what I would call a core wool, which is a cheaper wool on the inside of this cone, and then we're going to add a nice finish wool on the outside. And again, I've wrapped more down the bottom, and I'm just securing it on there. And then I would have felted the bottom a bit, and then I'll go all the way over it. So this is a sort of tops mix that I have. I think this is the Threshing Barn or Adelaide Walker. There's two companies. I think this is Threshing Barn. It's a UK company, but it's a lovely green mix. So I was going to sort of do a sort of Christmassy tree, and I'm just wrapping it around. If you had a plain colour, just do exactly the same if it's in sliders. Because this is in tops, this sort of shows you how tops will show every mark or every twist or every needle mark or every change of direction. So I had to be a little bit careful, but it worked quite well, and I was really pleased with the effect. So I just wrapped it all the way around, and now I've just got to cover the top of it without making it too thick. So I sort of went up and past it a little bit, and then I felt the top downwards to cover the white at the very end. So I just sort of folded it over there. But I just don't want that top bit to be too thick. I think you could do your cone shape a little bit taller, and it would be a little bit thinner at the top. Mine was a little bit chunky, but because it was going to be a little tree, I thought that was all right. And so I've attached it all. So that's, I haven't really felted it all the way over. And this is just to show you a little bit of hand carding. Literally with your hands, you take tops wool and you mess it up between your fingers. And then I'm just going to apply that to the bottom, which covers up the white, because you don't want the white showing at the bottom. So I just covered it up with a mix of the colours. If I'd have done it straight, it would have been a little bit tricky. I could have done it sort of wrapping it round and applying it, but just giving it a little card with your hands is really easy. And then I worked my way all the way over just to secure the tops wool on, so it definitely wasn't going to come off. Any frizzy bits I just trim with a pair of scissors and give it a little roll, and there we are. We have a pine shape or a cone shape, and it stands, so that helps. So next up, I'm just going to show you very quickly is an ear shape, which I do lots of animals tutorials, so do go and have a look through. They're all free. And I do online courses and PDFs as well on my Etsy shop with slightly more detailed items. But a really simple way to do an ear shape is to just get a piece of wool, not too thick, and then just curve it around and back on itself. Hold on to the ends because that's the fuzzy bit that you need to help you attach it, and then felt it down onto your mat. Pick it up, turn it over, felt it down. That is the simplest way to create a lovely little ear shape. So, and it's taken me a few years to work that one out. I did lots of folding over, lots of trying to shape it on the mat, drawing a line around it, but this is so quick and easy. So there we go. And then I would like to sort of neaten it up and then bend it in half, and you've got a little ear shape. So there we go, all done. I hope you've enjoyed that. As I said, I have lots of videos on my channel, all free to help beginners. Any questions that I haven't answered, do let me know. Thank you to Heidi Feathers for sponsoring the video. They're a really good company and I really recommend them. But I hope this has helped you. Like I said, here are some of my felts that you can move on to. And I've been doing this for about 6 years now, and I have lots of fun with it, and I'm definitely addicted to it. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care, felters. Bye.